Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nyambung, podcast program to get you clicked and connect with the issues around you, from foreign policy to political economic issues, including social protection. I'm Dinna Prapto Raharja. Greetings from Jakarta, Indonesia. Today is September the 16th. It's the day that I record this episode, and this is the 17th episode. Thank you to subscribers, those who have sent like, comments, and share our podcast, which is also available on YouTube and Spotify. I'm very much grateful for your support. Don't forget to share this episode to your friends, colleagues, and families. Today's theme should be of our common concern. Let's talk about the old age benefits in Indonesia. I will divide today's topic into two segments. The first one is the regulatory aspect of old age benefits in Indonesia. And secondly is the reality of old age benefits in Indonesia. Let me now switch to this background. Perhaps it's important for us to set this stage first, why this topic is important. For three reasons at least. Number one, being old and poor, sucks, right? Studies have shown that being old means less employers would be hiring you. There's a problem of endurance, physical mostly, speed or agility, and most likely your ability to adapt to new things would also decline. Some people will also experience some declining mental or cognitive capacity. Of course, other studies also show that the more educated you are, the more skilled you are, the more highly experienced individuals are, they usually adapt better to the environment. But needless to say, in general, being old would imply less jobs available for you. Second one, being old and poor would not just affect an individual or two, but across the world, there is a highly demographic trend of aging population. This is why I say earlier, this should be of our common concern. The third reason is because if you are old and you live in a place where the daily living daily living rate is high, you have certain illness or comorbidities. Imagine how the everybody else in your age, in your generation would have experienced. So Indonesia in particular is a country of 270 million population. The statistics as per 2019 shows that at least about 9.6% of Indonesia's population is already above 60 years old. And that's talking about 25.7 million people. Prediction says that the number will continue to grow 10% by 2020, and then by 2021, 20% increase. So there's a very rapid increase of aging in Indonesia. We should expect at least 30 million Indonesians would be aging by the end of the year. So let's now talk about the regulatory aspect of old age benefits in Indonesia. The notable momentum for old age provision benefits in Indonesia was July 1st, 2015. This was the time when BPJS Ketenagakerjaan, we call it BPJS Ketenagakerjaan, which is the public agency assigned as operator of the National Employment Insurance Program, was founded. It set as momentum because of three reasons. Number one, of the promise for more universal access to old age and pension benefits. You can refer to Law Number 40, 2004 in Indonesia. Basically, with this law, not just public sector workers now can have old age benefits, but beyond that, they can also enjoy old age benefits. Why? Because the law now allow for a nationwide employment protection programs. And this is based on contributory-based social security programs. And that includes old age benefits and pension benefits. Old age benefits come in the form of lump sum benefits that one can take upon reaching retirement age. And pension benefits would give you monthly living allowance available to all kinds of private sector workers. So as I mentioned here, you see, basically there are different schemes for different kinds of workers. If you're a salaried worker, you pay basically 5.7% of the reported basic wage. 2% will be paid by workers, 3.7% paid by employer. What has been hailed in Indonesia for more universal access is this access for non-salaried workers to also enjoy old age benefits. They can participate by paying 2% of their reported monthly income, and they can set arbitrarily whatever level of monthly income to the BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. And then migrant workers. Migrant workers can also pay an average about $7 to $40. That's the equal of 105,000 rupiah to 600,000 rupiah for the 24 months working abroad. So BPJS Ketenagakerjaan is the public operator, and needless to say that this public operator also changed its legal status by July 1st, 2015. So prior to that time, BPJS Ketenagakerjaan was a state-owned enterprise. And of course, there were issues tied to being a state-owned enterprise, namely the issues that they have to pay regular dividend for state budget, instead of paying more benefits to the workers who regularly pay to the schemes. But now, BPJS Ketenagakerjaan is a public legal entity. It's with this status, basically this agency reports directly to the president, and for formulation of its regulation, it needs to consult the National Social Security Council. Now let's talk a little bit about BPJS Ketenagakerjaan, the key agency responsible for providing old age benefits in Indonesia. It used to be, before July 1st, 2015, BPJS Ketenagakerjaan, or back then it was called Jamsos Tech, manages only private sector workers. But now it also has the responsibility to provide coverage for the non-salaried workers, as well as for civil servants, armed forces, and police. And this is a process that's still ongoing, is expected to be completed by 2029. I think that's an aspect that you need to be aware of. All right, polemics. Why in Indonesia we should talk about this? So regardless of the norms that we just discussed earlier, all the improvements of regulations affecting old age protection in Indonesia, at this moment, there's no single standard of how old is retirement age in Indonesia. The latest law, the Cipta Kerja law, or law number 11/2020, the law that some has mentioned is supposed to simplify the process of opening jobs in Indonesia, investing in Indonesia, says nothing about pension age. And so is the state regulation number 35/2021 on contract workers, which means there are anxieties that this rule may enforce labor flexibility even more, and thus overlooking old age protection that are usually mandatory in other laws. Looking at the earlier law that was born before the Cipta Kerja law, which is the state regulation number 45, 2015, on the operation of pension program. It says that the retirement age in Indonesia is 56, and it will increase 1 year for every 3 years afterward until reaching 65. But very few people are informed about where the status is. As of today, how old is the retirement age? The most talked about age is still 56. So is this law not applicable yet? It's still unclear. There's also state regulation number 65, 2008 on the retirement age of civil servants. And there it says for civil servants, the retirement age is 65. For teachers and lecturers, there are other law that applies. Law number 4, 2005, where it says that the retirement age for professors and lecturers is 65, but for teachers and monitoring personnel of schools will be 60. And then what about the police force, the police personnel? There's a different regulation applies to them. The government regulation number 1, 2003. It says the retirement age for police personnel is 58. And this applies to all ranks of police personnel. Judges also, judges of courts, they have different law affecting retirement age. It's 65 years old, and so on and so forth. So because all of these laws and rules affect different groups, the Ministry of Manpower says that basically one cannot cancel the other, which complicates basically the provision of old age benefits through BPJS Ketenagakerjaan that we just discussed. The second issue is that old age protection in Indonesia is still being tied to employment circumstances rather than to citizenship rights. This debate has been fierce because the old age protection programs has been based on contribution, which requires basically all members to be active, pay on regular basis, on monthly basis, in order for them to get old age benefits. So how about those who are poor? If the economy goes into the tank, all else being equal, for instance, people may have less ability to pay. And so the question is, would the government, in this case, be able to force all employers to continue paying on regular basis for the old age benefits of all workers? Or what about the status of the self-employed? If they lose their jobs or their business is not doing as good during the economic crisis, what will happen to their old age benefits? Indonesia does not have yet any program of subsidized benefits for the elderly poor. There is very minimal amount of money available in the form of social assistance for the poor, but it's not necessarily linked to this old age benefits that are managed by BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. So let's zoom into the reality of old age protection in Indonesia. To be poor and to be old in Indonesia, I think it's very challenging for at least 4 reasons. The first thing that I encourage you to look closer is that BPJS Ketenagakerjaan has experienced problems in enforcing the law of mandatory old age to the non-formal sector workers and also to the private sector workers. Even the state-owned enterprises employees may not get covered with old age insurance. You better check your status on regular basis, because usually companies do not necessarily report if they have problems paying regularly to BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. And for some reason, because BPJS, so old age benefits and social protection on employment benefits has been linked to employment in general, BPJS Ketenagakerjaan focuses on increasing membership on just two programs, the work accident benefits and the death benefits. So even though in many regulations, it says that all employers and all workers, including those working in as self-employed and informal sector workers, should at least participate in three programs: the old age lump sum benefit programs, the work accident, and the what's the other one? The other one is the death benefits. In reality, the ones enforced are just two: the work accident and the death benefits. So there's a big question mark on the enforceability of old age benefits. Second, nowadays, it's not just the private sector that is practicing austerity measures for their workers. Public entities or governments, different elements of governments have been practicing austerity measures too. They hire more contract workers than ever at the risk that their old age protection is compromised. The second issue is that it's not just the private sector practicing austerity measures during this pandemic era and also in overall crisis situation condition. Public entities such as governments entities, local agencies, government agencies basically have been practicing austerity measures too. So they hire contract workers more than ever at the risk that their employment coverage, especially old age benefits, is compromised, is not paid for. The third issue is that formal sector workers in Indonesia keep shrinking. And the trend is quite obvious, not just in Indonesia, but also across the world. Adapting to the pandemic era, adapting to the demand for more flexible labor market, the rise of gig economy, for instance, all of this assumes that people focus on creating jobs, less on the question of how is the quality of the job. So most of these workers, they struggle to meet ends meet. That basically they think that paying old age benefits is way too far on the horizon. They barely make ends meet today, that they don't feel it's necessary to save for future old age necessities. The fourth issue is that statistics shows that the spread of working population in Indonesia is in subsectors practicing flexible labor market. And this has been overlooked by any insurance. If you look at the data from Sakernas, for instance, the National Workforce Statistics of the Office of Indonesian Statistics of February 2021, for instance, of the 131 million labor force in Indonesia, I would say at least half of them are working in the informal sectors. So they are no longer working in the registered sectors that the government can once again necessarily track whether they get the benefits that they need to be enrolled on. So that, I think, my Nyambung listeners and viewers, is the reality of old age protections. The government is quite aware at this point that something needs to be done about old age benefits. An ongoing dialogue is happening in Indonesia to discuss how to improve the old age benefits. But of course, more and more minds needs to participate in order to improve the system here in Indonesia. So send us your comments and questions. I'd be happy to discuss your input in the future episodes. Until then, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for your support once again. Our podcast is available at YouTube and Spotify at Nyambung with Dinna Prapto Raharja. Make sure to send us your questions or your thoughts through YouTube comment section. And if you enjoy the episode, don't forget to like, share the link to your community, and subscribe so you make sure you don't miss our contents because we post every week.